The forest loomed dark and foreboding as two hunters, Mark and Jake, trudged through the underbrush. They were on a quest for a legendary buck that had eluded hunters for generations. As the sun dipped below the horizon, they arrived at a dilapidated cabin that had seen better days. Mark eyed the cabin warily. "I've heard stories about this place, man. They say it's cursed." Jake chuckled. "Superstitious nonsense, Mark. We'll just spend the night here, and by tomorrow, we'll have our trophy." They entered the cabin, its creaky door swinging open eerily. Inside, the air was stale, and the feeble light from their lanterns revealed peeling wallpaper and rickety furniture. Despite its decrepit appearance, the cabin seemed to have an unsettling presence about it. As night descended upon the forest, the wind howled outside, sending shivers down their spines. Mark and Jake settled into their sleeping bags, trying to ignore the sense of unease that had settled over them. The flickering lanterns provided little comfort. Hours passed, and just as Mark was beginning to drift into a fitful sleep, a sound echoed through the cabin, a ghostly whisper that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. He shot up, wide-eyed. "Did you hear that?" Mark whispered. Jake, half asleep, mumbled, "Hear what? Go back to sleep, man." But Mark couldn't shake the feeling that they were not alone. As the night wore on, the whispers grew louder, and they could now make out faint, unintelligible words. It was as if the cabin was trying to communicate with them. Terrified, Mark reached for the lantern, but before he could light it, the cabin shuddered violently. The hunters clung to each other, their hearts pounding in their chests. The eerie sounds intensified, echoing through the cabin like the tormented cries of lost souls. "What's happening, Jake?" Mark stammered. Jake's face had turned ashen. "I don't know, but we need to get out of here." They scrambled to their feet and made a beeline for the door, but as they reached for the handle, it swung shut with a deafening crash. They were trapped, surrounded by the unearthly whispers and mysterious forces that seemed to emanate from the very walls of the cabin. Deep in the heart of the untamed wilderness, where ancient trees loomed like towering giants, Hunter Robert had embarked on a solo expedition. His mission, to capture the legendary phantom beast that had haunted the tales of hunters for generations. This elusive creature was said to be the size of a bear, with fur as dark as midnight and eyes that shone with an otherworldly glow. Robert had heard countless stories about the phantom beast's supernatural abilities, how it could vanish into thin air and reappear at will. But he was determined to be the one to capture it, to prove that he was the greatest hunter of them all. Hours turned into days as Robert stalked through the dense forest, tracking the beast's elusive footprints and studying its enigmatic signs. Finally, on the third night of his expedition, he spotted it, a shadowy figure moving through the underbrush, its eyes gleaming with an eerie light. With his heart pounding, Robert raised his rifle, steadying his aim. He knew that this was the moment he had been waiting for. He fired, the gunshot echoing through the wilderness, but when the smoke cleared, the phantom beast was gone, leaving behind nothing but a faint, ghostly whisper. Robert's brow furrowed in confusion. "What? Where did it go?" As he continued to search, eerie growls and sinister laughter surrounded him, seemingly emanating from all directions. Panic gripped him, and he realized that he was not alone in the wilderness. The phantom beast, or whatever it was still out there, stalking him. Each step he took seemed to lead him deeper into a nightmare. Strange, otherworldly lights danced through the trees, and the forest itself seemed to shift and change, as if mocking his futile attempts to escape. The growls grew louder, more menacing, and Robert could feel a malevolent presence closing in on him. The moon hung low in the sky, casting an eerie silver glow over the dense forest. Hunter Samuel had been tracking a magnificent buck for hours. Its antlers were legendary, a trophy that would cement his reputation as the greatest hunter in the region. Samuel crouched low, his heart racing as he caught sight of the majestic deer through the trees. The creature stood still, bathed in the ethereal light of the moon, its antlers gleaming like twin spears of ice. Samuel knew that this was his chance to claim the ultimate prize. With trembling hands, he raised his rifle, lining up the perfect shot. The deer, as if sensing the impending danger, turned to face him. But instead of fear in its eyes, there was something far more unsettling. Glowing red eyes that seemed to pierce Samuel's soul. Samuel hesitated for a split second, his finger trembling on the trigger. In that moment, the deer's eyes seemed to bore into him, filling him with a sense of dread he had never known. But he couldn't back down now. He squeezed the trigger, and the gunshot rang out through the forest. The deer let out an otherworldly scream, and Samuel watched in horror as its body seemed to contort and twist, its antlers elongating and its fur taking on a sickly, unnatural hue. The once majestic creature had transformed into a nightmarish, demonic beast. "By all that's holy," Samuel whispered, taking a step back. But the demonic deer was not done. It charged at him, its horns glowing with an otherworldly aura. Samuel turned and ran, his heart pounding, but the creature pursued relentlessly, its unearthly shrieks echoing through the forest. As he stumbled through the underbrush, Samuel couldn't shake the feeling that he had unleashed a malevolent force that was determined to claim him. The forest itself seemed to conspire against him, its once familiar paths twisting and distorting, leading him deeper into the heart of darkness. Samuel's desperate flight continued through the long, harrowing night, as he battled not only the demonic deer, but the very forces of nature itself. He knew that he had ventured into a realm beyond the realm of ordinary hunting, where the line between the living and the supernatural had blurred into a waking nightmare.